All right. Hey, everybody. This is Lisa, One Singing Lady Gilliam, here with their LLG Random But Real Wednesday Word on Word Wednesday. So if you're watching now, some of y'all be watching me on Instagram. So I'm going to look over here a little bit. And then I'm also going to look at my Facebook page, Instagram. If you want to follow on there, it's at One Singing Lady. It's the number one spelled out. That's the same thing on Facebook. And on YouTube, it is One Singing Lady, completely spelled out OneSingingLady. And I am super, super excited to have my friend slash little sister, Ashley Burton, on here with us. Before we start, Ashley, I actually want you to tell people your social media links. A lot of people wait to the end, but we want as many people as possible to be watching. So.
Oh, thank you. So yes, Ashley Burton on Instagram, Twitter. My handle is A Burton, B as in baby, URT as in Tommy, ON as in Nancy, 214. All those numbers. And then if you would like to follow what we're doing for Mastering Mind Matters, it is on Instagram at Mastering Mind Matters.
Awesome. So we are super, super excited to have you on here. I think I'm going to try one more thing, you all. Like I said, I am recording from several different pages, and I want to get as many people as possible in here. This will still be on my YouTube page afterwards. So please like, share, and subscribe, whether you see it on my page or Ashley's page. September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And we really, really want to see people saved, set free, delivered. That's important to both of us. And so I can't think of the password that I was trying to do. So we're not going to worry about that right now. So, but yes, we definitely want to see people just, not having them stay in this place of bondage. And I say bondage in the sense that Ashley and I have a lot of like qualities. We found that out because of a mutual friend, Paige, who introduced us. And so we know each other pretty well. We've run support groups together. We have talked about our own testimony. She has seen me cry. And if y'all know me, y'all know I cry. So I'm going to first allow Ashley to tell or just introduce herself. And hey, Lorna, how are you? I'm seeing comments. I'll be also talking, people through the comments as well. But I want you just to introduce yourself and also just tell people why mental health is important to you.
Okay. Once again, thank you so much, Lisa, for allowing me to have this time platform. I'm truly honored and humbled and grateful every time I get a chance to talk about mental wellness. Ashley Burton, I am currently employed by the federal government, but formerly a teacher, and I am have a professional counseling degree, master's degree, and my love for mental health, mental wellness was born out of my own testimony. I've shared in a number of places my struggle with depression and more recently just anxiety to a point where just like having like really bad anxiety attacks. And also my struggle with suicidality. I did attempt suicide at the age of 18, and just chronic suicidality is something that I have struggled with for a lot of my adulthood. And so, this is, kind of, I say now, mental wellness is my jam. Like, it's the thing that I feel I'm called to do, specifically in Christian spaces, faith-based spaces where a lot of understanding about mental wellness, a lot of times, is kind of misconstrued along with certain tenets of our faith, right? So, we know that prayer is a tool, or some people say it's my weapon, and we don't negate that. But for certain things that you deal with in life, you get by with a little help from your friends. And so we want people who are struggling with mental wellness, struggling with mental disorders, and not coming to church and faith-based spaces and feel worse than when they came in. Because there are people who will just be like, "Girl, we're gonna pray about it. We want to get this devil out of here." And, that is, it's an area, that's a lane, right? There are some people who need medication. There are some people who need counseling from a licensed professional or someone who's been trained academically, right? Not just the pastor. There are some, and both, right? And really breaking the stigma in those spaces, because as a pastor, someone who literally was born in church and has been first my whole life, I've seen it all and I've experienced quite a bit of it. And it is my hope that people who come behind me won't have to deal with some of the other things that I've heard that people in our generation and before our generation have to deal with. So that's a little bit about me.
Absolutely. And you all apologize, but this fuzziness on the camera is bothering me right now. I can make it a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's also part of the light. I apologize. Y'all know me. I'm very informal. So and Ashley is
real, right?
So I'm looking at the other two screens and I'm just like, it's so different from this one. So what do you think it was? Was it just because of your own personal walk that made you now be like, you know what, I really got to help other people?
I've always been in a position where I've been like the listening friend. I mean, since we were teenagers, one of my best friends from childhood, Barbara, always jokes around about how she's paid for a couch. So I've always kind of been in a position to support others and to be a listening ear. And so you can kind of say my personality naturally kind of suits this kind of work. But my life experience is really what pushed me in this direction. And one of the things that it's a priority for me. It's something that I'm still kind of working on. Is making sure that nobody that I know has to feel like they have to walk in these journeys by themselves. And so wherever you are, I want to be equipped to be able to be the best that I can be within the boundaries that I can set, right? Obviously. But that being something that's just naturally very important to me, I think just lined up well with just my life's experiences. And it's kind of like one of the things, no matter what I do, no matter what I study, like my undergrad was in accounting. I'm not using it because it's not what I'm passionate about. I keep coming back to this. So it's just kind of one of those things where the work is just what I find myself constantly coming back to.
Right. Totally understand. It's funny how God uses our own experiences to put us in this place that, like, who would think that we become close because both of us had suicidal thoughts, or dealt with depression or anxiety. And one of the things that I've decided to do this year, as opposed to any other, is really be intentional about being honest about the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so tired of people putting me in a box, or being even though I am not a counselor now, I was for about 20 years, and I still use my counseling skills in the position that I have now. I work for a public school system, and I still do counsel the students that I have, but it's not formal. And so the pressure is not necessarily there, you know what I mean, to make sure you're doing the things that you need to do at the same time. But I understand how difficult it can be for an individual to say that I'm depressed or I'm suicidal, or because people will judge you and try to keep you in that place. I don't know about you, you can tell me, but every time I speak, especially to an audience that's never heard my testimony, I go through my own little process of like, what are they going to think about me? How are they going to think I'm crazy? Because, we've heard it all, you know what I mean? It's different when you're helping someone else through it, but when you're actually going through it too. So how do you, or do you even have those issues or that combating this, within yourself when you're speaking to everybody else to try to help them?
Absolutely. Every time I put myself in a position to be vulnerable, it is another like, oh my goodness, is someone going to judge me? I would say that I don't deal with it as intensely now because I'm not in the classroom. When I was a pre-K teacher, I was just like, oh, like what if one of the families come across my testimony and they're like, Miss Ashley or Miss Burton or whatever they knew me as. Now I feel like God is really bringing me into a season of just being free to share where I am, where I have been, without fear. I think I'm always going to feel nervous because people pleasing is something that I deal with a lot, right? So, I want to be able to help folks, but like at the same time, like I want to still very much control how people look at me. And
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, the importance of me sharing my testimony is because growing up, I very much was that, look at Ashley, she's doing the right thing. She's getting straight A's in school. She's this, she's that. And for a long time, it felt so very stifling to me to not be able to share, like, y'all, I am suffocating under these expectations of me. So much so that like when I was depressed my first year of college, and I was so depressed that I was experiencing hypersomnia, which means I was up all the time. I was dead tired, had no like so much mental fogginess that I was going to class because I was up, but I wasn't retaining anything. Failed a class, lost my scholarship. I had a full tuition scholarship to Penn State. Lost my scholarship because I just was all over the place. Couldn't even tell my parents what was going on. I was horrified to let them know what happened. And when I did, I like wept in the floor for like an hour. And my parents was like, Ashley, like, what do you need? How can we help? And so, just to go back to your question, I thank God that I'm not still in that place where I'm just like completely horrified in sharing what I've experienced and what I've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there will always kind of be a certain amount of apprehension around sharing. But I truly believe that we are set free by the power of our testimony, right? And we overcome by the blood of the Lamb. So, every chance that I get, I remind myself that it's about the one person who may be going through something similar who can be helped, rather than the 5 people here that think, I'm wrong for talking about this in church, So kind of having that going after the one and leaving the 99 kind of perspective helps me to kind of just be like, you know what, share your story. And there are moments when it's not about me. But what I find that, especially people who know me for a long time and know kind of my background, it's like, oh, Ashley was dealing with that. Ashley, really? It helps kind of ground and humanize me, right? And so that's really kind of how I approach it.
Totally understand. Danya, who we've worked with, I don't know if she was asking me or you, but I'm asking both. Both of us can answer. She was asking, are you still uncomfortable telling your story? And for me, I'm not uncomfortable with telling my story. I think too much about what people are going to think about me when I tell my story.
Exactly.
I've been telling my testimony as long as I've been singing and writing and all this. It's been over 20 years, actually probably high school. It's the first time I got paid to actually sing, but I wasn't talking about the depression then. In fact, I didn't talk about, she said both. So this is your question next, Ashley.
Okay.
She said, that I told one of my friends when I was in 10th grade, I think. So literally I held in anything dealing with the abuse or molestation until I was 15 years old, and it happened probably like 4, a long time to hold in a secret. It's not like it's something that you can talk about with family. I told y'all I'm gonna tell truth. So for y'all that didn't know, that's just one of the many things that have happened to me in my life. And I praise God because I know a lot of people, I don't have it all together and I'm still struggling in a lot of areas, but it could have been a whole lot worse. So are you still comfortable or are you uncomfortable with telling your story after all these years?
Definitely more comfortable than I was. But yeah, there is a certain level of catharsis that happens every time you tell your story. And so for people who are verbal processors, a lot of people are verbal processors. If you don't have an outlet, right, it just keeps kind of like circling on in your system. And for me, who has been dealing kind of heavily with anxiety, I need to release as much out of my brain as possible so that I don't have things that are going to constantly have me spiraling out of control mentally. Um, so, I try to focus on the freedom that I feel sharing my story rather than, like I said before, the dread that I feel from someone judging me or looking at me differently, right? At this point, I really don't want anybody to look at me as like, oh, Ashley, no. I want y'all to just see me for who I am, flaws, all everything.
Yeah, I definitely get it. I think it's almost like you said, it's cathartic. It's a shedding. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like even
Mhm.
though we know we have more areas, I'm like my whole life is an onion, and but onions are good to me. I
Oh, all my stuff.
they flavor my food. My friend bought me a sub the other day, and those raw onions. So but you got to go through a process to get them to that right cut, and you don't put all your onions on one part of the sandwich. You want to spread them out. You know what I mean? And so I thank God for the spreading of just the process.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we've been through a lot, it didn't all happen at once, so
Mm-hmm.
to speak. But like you said, you got to that point where you were on the floor crying or whatever. But because you weren't letting out all the stuff that was going on, it affects us in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of times how the death of my mom has called PTSD, it would trigger the PTSD because it was already there from all the other experiences that I had. Hey, Tawana, thanks for watching. And if you all have comments, please, you can leave them on any site that you see them on, and we'll answer. YouTube is the main site where we're broadcasting, so I'm able to see your comments when you're there. And so please, that would be the best way for me to make sure we respond. But basically, and then also, I found if you go to page, Ashley, if you're able to go to my actual page on Facebook, you
Mm-hmm.
can to be requested in the broadcast, and then it will show up on your page.
Okay.
So we're learning through this process. It'll get better. I'm using a different version of what I used to use. I've done broadcasts on another app, and this is a little different. Nonetheless, so what I really want people to get to the point of doing is actually openly speaking about mental health and mental illness, and just not hiding the fact, because you'll find that it's probably a lot more people that walk around undiagnosed with any type of mental health issues, but there are people who are actually diagnosed with them, and you can still be successful just like you can with any physical illness. And so that's my biggest push. Like, I want everyday regular people. That's why I started Celebrate Life, to teach people about the symptoms of depression in order to prevent suicide. And so even though I don't do the actual events anymore, especially not now with the pandemic, but that's really important to me. And so this is just like, in a sense, a spinoff of that. And this whole month, we're going to be talking about different things related to mental health, even some people who were diagnosed with COVID, who are recovering or have recovered, because life can be difficult. So with that being said, what is your take on mental health and COVID, and how maybe people can be encouraged, whether they get diagnosed, whether they have anxiety because of, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? You tell me.
There are just so many different considerations when it comes to COVID. I think one of the biggest things about COVID is just the uncertainty around it. And I know that with a lot of uncertainty, if a person deals with control issues, that really can kind of send your anxiety spinning, right? So I can't control how, I can control certain things. I can control what I do. I can not go out my house at all, or I can just like literally when I go out of the house be in a full suit. My mom still every time she goes out the house, mask, gloves, the whole nine yards. And she does it because she's technically in a high risk group. My father's definitely in a high risk group. I'm in a high risk group. There are just things, and my fiance, he's got family members in high risk groups. We've got so many different considerations. The biggest thing about COVID is understanding that you could do everything the right way and still end up having to deal with it, dealing with the ramifications of it, either personally or, with someone close to you.
Absolutely.
So I think it's important for us to, give ourselves grace. And, I see a lot of people, especially on social media. I have dedicated myself to not arguing with people on social media anymore. That is growth. Praise God. I see a lot of people, throwing these like underhanded shots at people going out here doing whatever, living their lives, and people feeling like they need to like post their, results from their COVID tests and things like that. Every person is going to do what they feel is best. And if someone is operating in a way that you feel like is endangering yourself, will endanger you or your family, then you set appropriate boundaries with people. If you see somebody's been here, there, everywhere, you're not comfortable with it, they want to come up your house, hey girl, no offense, we're still, just taking these precautions because we cannot afford, and we want to do what's within our power to make sure that we, do not have to deal with this. I think it's also just important. One of the things early on, I remember with COVID, people were passing around this meme that was like, if your friends haven't checked on you since, all this has gone down, then they shouldn't be your friend, basically was the point of it. And then I saw people rebuff with, like everyone's dealing with their own things. And I think that there is kind of a middle ground that we can come to with this. I think that, yes, everyone is dealing with their own things. And a lot of us do not know how to, or do, just like not a good job at saying, hey, I'm going through this. I just need some time. I'm not, ghosting you. I'm not trying to be funny, but I just got so much on my plate. And I'm gonna be honest, I've been in that space this week with my friends. And I'm like, Ashley ain't been talking. Yo, Ashley's been trying to deal with everything. But I also know for me, if someone who's known me long enough knows that when I start to retreat, that means trouble for Ashley. That means that Ashley is probably going through something and she's isolating, which means that this could be like a depressive episode. Mm-hmm. So those friends have been like hitting me on the side, like, hey, I'm gonna call you, see, oh, hey, and so, that kind of helps bring me back in, because one of the things that I want people to understand about things like depression, or just like having to adjust to different things, none of us have ever had to live, or very few of us have lived through anything like this, right? The last time we had a international pandemic like this was 100 years ago. So unless you're over 100, you really haven't lived through anything like this before. And so everyone's trying to navigate that on top of the things in life that we already have to go through.
Absolutely.
And so, if you have a friend who you haven't talked to, they haven't checked on you, it's their regular kind of MO to be present, to check on you. Maybe you want to do the checking, like, hey, I noticed, Lisa, I noticed that, you've been kind of quiet. Just want to check in to make sure you're okay. Like, I'm over here going through stuff, but I want to assume the best about your intentions, that you're not just over there because you don't want to be my friend no more. You may be going through something. I don't want to take for granted that might be the case for you. Right. And so I think just kind of understanding that this is something that is largely outside of our control. We do the things that we can, but in all things, give grace to ourselves and to others. I think would be the biggest things I would say about COVID. It's just so much that's happening right now. These kids in school. I'm having to be a full-time worker. I'm having to be a new mama to not a baby, to a 9-year-old. I'm having to be a new fiance. I'm still in school. I took a little breaky break, but I think I'm about to extend that breaky break.
It's a lot.
tired, and I've got multiple projects that are popping up, things that I've been praying and asking God to, do as far as what I feel my purpose is. But it is a lot of responsibility. And I know for me, I don't do the best at communicating to people around me like, yo, this is overwhelming. I just go to myself. I just go be by myself. And so that's really what I would say with that.
It's a lot. That's all I can say. I was telling somebody today, like virtually, I probably work a lot more than I was when I was in person. And the funny thing is, I don't know why I would think it would be any different because I took 4 classes this summer and they were virtual, and it was so much work that I literally cried. Like if you go to my YouTube page, you can see my videos. I cried almost every day about some of these, the workload that was there. It can be overwhelming. So I'm having trouble, and I'm on the side. I'm giving the information. I'm not even having to teach a child, but yes, I can imagine how much you have to do planning wise just to make sure everything falls into place. So God bless you on that. I just want to take a second and just say thank you to everybody that is watching. And hopefully more people will see this in the broadcast. Make sure you all like, share, and subscribe it, please, because we don't do this for us. We actually really want other people to be blessed. It's not about just the numbers. And I'll be honest, right now, Ashley, the numbers aren't super high. I believe that they will be higher, later. But what I know about this topic is a lot of people wait until it's too late to find out. And
Absolutely.
frustrates me because you could be prepared. Like the symptoms of suicide can be so clear. You can see someone giving away all their items, or you can see someone either losing or gaining weight. You can see someone having, anxiety so much so that they're hyperventilating, or that they're not sleeping, or they're sleeping too much, or all the things that we've talked about or maybe experienced. And yet, if you don't know what this is, then you miss it. And then the next thing I hear is, Lisa, can you come sing at such and such funeral? This has happened to people that I know. And people think that it's a weak thing to commit suicide. I don't necessarily believe that. I think it takes a lot of strength to decide, be like, that I can't do this anymore like this, and I don't see a way out. I think that really we have to get to the point that if someone does not feel comfortable enough to come to you and say, because let me make this clear, if a person is depressed, they're probably not going to make the first step. They're depressed. Like I'm going to look at each camera and I want y'all to see that and really understand that. You have to understand that they're probably not going to take the first step. So why don't you be the mature one and Google or ask a friend or do whatever you have to do just as much as you would for a physical issue? Someone you love, find out the information you need to about a mental health issue so that you can help save their life. Get, NAMI's number, get the suicide prevention number. Like everything is really at our fingertips. So stop saying, oh, you can call me if you feel down. They're probably not. Why don't you reach out to them?
No, you are absolutely correct. A lot of the messaging around suicide, suicidality, suicidal ideation is just not accurate. And I was actually in a meeting yesterday about an organization that is dedicated specifically to Black mental health, called Beam. And we were talking about, when you see messaging and posters and things about suicide prevention, always has like white folks with their hands in their head and they're, like they just look so down and distraught. And a lot of people who are dealing with suicide don't look like that.
They look like this.
They looking like me right now. Y'all wouldn't know that I had a crazy day. Okay, a crazy day. But a lot of people who are dealing with suicide, active suicidal ideation, they're walking around, they manage to put smiles on their faces. They manage to, because if you're dealing with a burden that's so heavy, if it was easy, you would talk about it, right? But you kind of feel like you already feel like, I don't want to be a burden because what I'm feeling is so heavy. I know if I put it on somebody else, it's going to be extraordinarily heavy for them. And so, a lot of our, reach out and talk to somebody if you're feeling this way. It sounds good. But, if I'm spending all my energy just to get up and go to work because, I'm so depressed, like I can hardly do it, but I can't lose my job because that's going to spiral me into something else, like you're already putting all of your energy into that. And so I think that one of the keys to talking about suicide prevention, specifically, for Black people, specifically for people of faith, has to do a lot more with community care, right? It's really getting to know people, really understanding how people operate, so that I'm not just looking at you when you're looking sad, right, and looking like you're about to fall out, because that might be a day you just might be struggling, but you may not be feeling suicidal. The next day when you get yourself together, you might be like, yo, I don't know if I can do this, but you know what, let me just go ahead to work. So if I'm looking for that, I'm going to miss all of the cues that I'm supposed to be seeing. And I think part of that goes back to us really endeavoring to know the people around us, really, just checking in with us, really, just like noticing patterns. Like, people are creatures of habit naturally. If somebody switches their pattern up, chances are that's signaling something. It may not be signaling something bad, but you won't know because you won't catch it, right? If you supposed to be one of my best friends, and I can't tell when you switching up, like, are we really close, right? So a lot of that goes back into community care, right? And not, the messaging is cool, but it's not comprehensive, I think is what I'm trying to say. So that's important. You made a really good point with that.
So Dr. Braxy Gilkey, which is Lorna, thank you for sharing this, because so many of us need to know it's possible to get through depression and thoughts of suicide, with some praying hands. And then Parker said, thank you, ladies, for sharing. I'm in tears because you are telling my story. The more I share, I feel it helps me heal. And so we both have worked with them through Celebrate Life, and they have shared their stories. We want you to know that it's okay to feel however you feel, but get help. Can we just say that right now? So I have friends who, since it'll be 3 years in October since my mom died, and I can hardly believe that. Like, it seems like yesterday.
Yeah.
My friends have lost their moms since me. A lot of them. It's like domino effect. One of the things that really, really, really bothers me is when people know that they need help and they won't go get help. And that means, for me, it's mental health issues. And I hope they're watching right now. But everybody's watching, I've actually told them this directly, mental or physical. And we've talked about this on the blog that you used to have. Nuance, what was it? Nuances?
Nuance Exposures.
Yes, thank you.
It's still up there.
Oh, it's still up there? Okay. And so I think actually I tagged it on my YouTube page, so you can probably find it. We talked about the importance of, if you don't gel with the counselor, like say you finally do go get another one. So can you speak to that, please?
This is actually funny. Kind of what I'm going through right now. But it is, right? So one of the things that comes along with the stigma is like unrealistic expectations of practitioners, right? Just because someone was helpful or great for you in one particular season of your life does not mean that they're going to continue to be optimal for you moving forward.
Can you say that again, please? Just say it slow.
Someone was great and wonderful for you in one season of your life doesn't mean that they're going to be optimal, right? We are, as people, we are dynamic. We are constantly changing. We are evolving. You might, conquer one thing and something else develops, and the person that who was in charge of your care may not be the best suited to handle what you're newly dealing with. Or, you find yourself, you're getting the same answers and you're like, all right, this isn't helping. That's, it's the same thing.
I'm laughing not because it's funny, because I understand.
And I'm going to be transparent and honest. That's kind of where I feel with my current therapist. No, like I love her.
No love loss.
No love loss, whatever. But I feel like, where I am in my life, the things that I'm experiencing right now, I need something a little bit more comprehensive. And this is where self-advocacy and also self-awareness comes in. I'm not going to try to make stuff happen because I am in the fight for my life. Okay. If I am putting someone or I am partnering with someone and they don't know how to properly understand what I'm dealing with and what I need in order to be able to better understand and be in a better place to help heal myself, then I need to keep on my journey. Now, I know a lot of people, when they go to therapy, they get attached to their therapist. I've talked to people who the therapist knew that person needed someone else, and the client was the one that was like, yo, I can't let go. And the therapist is like, listen, I've taken you as far as I can take you.
Right.
And that is the thing that happens as well. I literally had talked to someone through that a couple weeks ago. That is a thing. And I know that for someone who, has things, especially around attachment, that can be very hard. And it can make you want to say, I don't want to go back to therapy. But it's not a breakup. But even if you look at it as a breakup, most of us, after we break up, we have a time where we mourn that situation. And then eventually we be like, you know what, maybe I can try this thing again. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Some of us go back to the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's another story for another time.
It is another story for another time.
But this is
I've been on both sides.
Like, because we do that. And you know what? Everybody is not a horror story. So that's that. But the thing is, I know for me with my physical health, and I'm going to put that in quotations because your physical health is mental health. They are intertwined. But with something outside of what I consider to be mental issues, right? If I go to the doctor and I don't feel satisfied with the care that I'm receiving for whatever reason, my inclination has been to, I need to find another doctor. Or I need a second opinion. Mm-hmm. You should treat your mental health the same way. If you are, going to a therapist and things aren't working out for whatever reason, then you should be seeking. And this day and age, there are so many different resources with people. You got therapists that specialize in this, that, and the other. You got therapists. You got Black women therapists, you got Black men therapists, you got a non-gender conforming therapist, you got LGBTQ therapist. I mean, for whatever kind of demographic you identify with, you got Christian therapists, you got Muslim therapists. I mean, we really are living in a great time as far as therapy is concerned, because the field is in the middle of kind of really on some levels taking multiculturalism seriously, right? So we do have some more diverse options. But if something's not working, it really would behoove you to try to, and I know it takes a lot of energy, because when someone knows you know what, I'm gonna just but when you understand that you're in the fight for your life, you do what you have to do. Absolutely. So that I have to be straight. My dad reminded me this on Sunday as I was weeping in his arms because I felt so overwhelmed. And he was like, you can't afford not to be going to your therapist, ma'am. Mm-hmm. My father told me that. Okay. You know what I mean? So I'm not Dad. Right. I'm not trying to be out here preachy and want y'all to think that I don't deal with this in my own life. Right. Mm-hmm. Wipe my tears away and was like, make an appointment. Thanks so much. So, that is something that should be paramount to us. Now, if if you're having trouble just even making the first step, I think that if you have support, you have people around you who are willing to support you, then you should help them to help you be accountable to yourself. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, okay, Ashley, we know that you're struggling. So, we're going to set up some boundaries so that you can remind yourself that this is something that should be important to you. And utilizing, your network, utilizing your support system. If you don't have a support system, there are people like me, like Lisa, who consider ourselves to be mental health advocates. We can walk you through that. We can talk you through it, right? So we can do that first step, that foray into that. If that's something that you're struggling with, there are a lot of people that still have like very strong stigma in their minds about going to a therapist. I hear it almost weekly. I ain't crazy.
And no one said you were. You go to a doctor and you're not sick, but you get up, right?
But I think a big part of that is that we've convinced ourselves that these things that we do because we enjoy them aren't really unhealthy coping mechanisms. You out here drinking yourself, your liver is like,
we're gonna talk to you about that. Yes, that's a good one. Keep going down that path. Yeah.
Like, now be it far from me, because this enjoys a little juice every now and then myself.
Right. But if you're drinking every single day, you're getting lit every single day, every day,
exactly.
Like more than you're not lit. Then
exactly. That is called an unhealthy coping. In therapy and counseling, we say you're engaging in risky behaviors that put you at risk, not just your physical body at risk, put you in harm's way as far as other diseases and things like that, or put you in harm's way of actually going up out of here. I have someone who was very close to me who passed, and in the aftermath of their passing, I really was just thinking, like, what was going on in their heads? And what I there's no way for me to know because they're not here. But one of the things that I kind of came up with was this person was engaging in increasingly risky behaviors that now in retrospect was a cry for help. It was unhealthy coping mechanisms, but you can convince yourself that you're doing it because you're big and bad and that's just what you want to do. Maybe. But we're seeing a pattern here of, just in your life, everything is increasingly risky. That tells me that you have not learned how to cope in a healthy way with the stresses of life. And you convince yourself that you ain't crazy. You convince yourself that you don't need help because you're not one of those crazy folks. But you've done what you know how to do. And that is so we really got to talk more. And we do it in the church too. Child, all in the church. That person I was thinking about, church, love the Lord. Love, but we will put ourselves in those situations because we have convinced ourselves that, that is better than going to therapy. Because, with that, it's just me doing things.
Right. Well, I'll be honest. Like I've shared how I definitely have been in that place of risky behavior. I mean, recently, like still going through those steps, those decisions because of the pain. But I have to find another counselor because I was seeing a counselor. I actually ended up seeing a male counselor, which I never thought I would because who wants to talk to a male counselor about being raped and abused and just not me. I didn't want to. But both of them were helpful in their own way. This last one, I have to give a shout out. I was taking classes at PG Community College for my certification. And that counseling department, the counselor that I saw was amazing. He challenged me, but he also encouraged me. No matter how bad I had done something or whatever, he didn't judge me. I felt that, it wasn't like, oh, that's okay. And I want to say that because I had a conversation even with someone that's watching and they'll know who I'm talking about. I will never be a person to be like, oh, this is okay. What I'm doing is da, da, da. The difference is if I'm doing that and I'm getting help to walk through it, then just love me through it, and even you, when we had a conversation, I didn't go into like details, but I never felt like you judged me. You know what I mean? And I might have actually judged you sometimes, not intentionally.
Yeah.
like I realize that sometimes there's a few things that I've learned, and I'm getting to my point, but there's a few things that I've learned over my life. Like right now, those that are watching who know me know that I'm not preaching or teaching or singing, or I'm pretty much not doing anything right now because I realized that I was so jacked up. I thought I was good, and I'm at a place now where I can't be pouring into anybody else. And there's some residual stuff from not just my mom's death, but even it goes back to being abused. It goes back to being molested. It goes back to being date rape. A lot of people might have gone through one of those things, but they didn't go through all of that. It goes back to finding my grandmother dead, and then back to finding my mom unconscious and dying 2 weeks later. So the PTSD that I experienced, that in and of itself, the traumatic grief was so traumatic for me that I am digging myself out of a hole, but I couldn't do it by myself. I needed therapy. Mm-hmm. And so I will, when things settle, I'll find somebody else. But even that process can be difficult. So Lorna asked the question, do we have tips for finding a good Black Christian counselor? So if that's her preference, what would what is your tip for finding, someone? I used Safe Harbor before. I've used Life Christian Network Counseling. Internet has endless possibilities, and you can actually put in what you want. And even your insurance company, like you can tell them, I prefer a Christian, or I prefer a Caucasian, or I prefer African American, but find your good fit. Those are my ideas. What are yours, Ashley?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, honestly, if you Google, Black Christian therapist in Prince George's County, Maryland, you can psychology today. You can type in those specifications. Therapy for Black girls has a directory. There are a lot of websites now that have directories where you can kind of specify certain things according to the demographic area, or just certain specifications, like you said, Black Christian. I have some
references or referrals and stuff.
Referrals, yes.
That's
what. Sometimes when you're talking, it just comes in your head and it floats right on out.
I understand.
Like, boy, I was going to say something. I was presenting to the head of HR today, and I lost my train of thought, and I was like, "Oh my goodness! I promise I'm smart." Right. Like, I would say I would definitely start there.
Okay, cool. So we're getting ready to end in a little bit, but if you all have questions, please feel free to ask them now. So you all know, like on Wednesday, it's a Word Wednesday / Wednesday Word. And sometimes I sing and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do poetry, sometimes I don't. And Ashley was the one who was just like, you should just do it. Like, work through it. I tease her. But I mean, she was right. And so I wrote a poem / song called No More Thoughts of Suicide. You can actually hear it on my YouTube page. All my CDs are there. So there's Spotify, Pandora, Tidal, Apple iTunes. There's really no, Apple Music. You can find it and then just like, share, and subscribe. Like, really, I need y'all to like our broadcast and like our pages and stuff. So I'm not going to do the poem part. Maybe I'll do that another day. But this month, I'm going to try every Wednesday when I post to do something. What? So into that, and I just want you to tell me what those words mean to you.
Okay.
After this is, and I had no, so we don't know what's gonna happen, right? Okay. Until my destiny is fulfilled, and only God can say, I will continue to live in truth until my dying day. Christ is the only answer. He's the only way to prevent suicide from occurring and stop the sorrow of the present day. Now on the CD, I was singing it again, but I'm not singing it again today. But those words to me, because it says no more thoughts of suicide. And I thought of suicide even after it. But sometimes I have to remind myself and encourage myself that I still have destiny and I still have purpose. And so that's what it means to me. Does it mean anything to you, Ashley?
What I thought about honestly, I know a lot of times when we talk about sanctification, I'm about to make a theological pivot real quick.
Okay.
But I promise I'm not about to be as deep as you think.
No, it's cool. I'm just messing with you.
A lot of times when we talk about sanctification, we talked about being sanctified already, the complete work of sanctification through Christ, right? And then positional sanctification, where we are right in this moment. And I think it's the same thing when I was listening to those words, like those no more thoughts of suicide, in Christ, this is already done. We can proclaim that this is where we are. But there's still a process that we have to work through. And so it may not manifest in physically, like you're never ever going to have a thought of suicide. But when I proclaim that over my life, I proclaim that I understand and I know where the source of me being able to be complete in that work is. And that's kind of where my head went around those lyrics, that we trust God, we trust in God to be the source, right? The healing source for us. And that's really honestly why we push to do what we do. I don't know what my life is going to be like or look like. And I don't know what may happen, may not happen, but in this moment I'm pushing to continue the work, continue to get to that point, because I trust that the God who made me and created me is able to perfect those things concerning me. And so that is it's a chant of hope. That's where I kind of where I kind of got out of it.
Cool. I think, it just keep going. No matter how many times you fall down, just keep going.
Yep.
Like I would tell my clients all the time and my students, like, you have purpose, and until you're dead, then you still have purpose, like fulfill. Just briefly before we get off though, we got to just mention Chadwick because clearly, like, I was super sad when I heard about his death, but even more, even before they started posting, I was looking at the time frame and I was like, oh my gosh, what I realized before people were saying it 4 years ago, he was acting in like the role of his life. I liked him in 42, I liked him like in every film I've seen him in. And to put so much into Black Panther and to have to know that he was seeing all these children who were dealing with cancer, et cetera, and he had it himself. And this is what blessed me. And I'm relating it to Celebrate Life in that sense. His camp, not one person leaked anything. I don't remember ever reading anything that showed any type of remote signification that he was dealing with anything, dealing with cancer. And I'm like, I want a camp like that around me. I want people that I can talk to when I'm down, that's not going to judge me. I didn't tell me the truth, but I can tell you the truth in love. I want people who are not going to leak my stuff. So if I say, you know what, yesterday I wanted to commit suicide, or I tried, or whatever, that you're not going to just go tell somebody just because you want to come up with, just a story to say. That even though his story was not about suicide, but the story is so much greater and his legacy lives on in that. So for me, that's a parallel. Like I want people to be that close to me in my life that I know that they have my back, that I can talk to, even if I don't really want to talk to. But what did you get out of just him, just his story, or any correlations at all? I know people are probably like, how did you draw that? But that to me is huge, because when you're depressed, it's really hard to open up. And he was not. The fact that he had people that he could trust to say anything, that to me is mind blowing, and such an amazing, it's amazing, because that's something that I actually long for.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate to bring it up because it's what's happening right now. I had my first youth mental health series on Saturday, and we absolutely talked about it. I think my biggest takeaway, I've been seeing people like glorifying him pushing through physically what's going on. And, if that's what he was empowered to do, more power to him. Everyone's not going to be able to do that. I think it's important for us, while we are grieving him, to have realistic expectations of who we are and what we're doing. We already deal with, especially us as Black women, enough with the strong Black women syndrome, where people are expecting us to just show up and continue to do everything. So we already have like that superhero complex, and this is no disrespect at all to his legacy. But I think, like you said, to your point, the power of community care. I do not believe that he would have been able to do any of that with
himself.
a strong community.
And his faith in God, because he talks about that. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And so, community being not just your family and friends, but like you said, your relationship with God, your ability to be able to lean in and have those safe spaces where, again, like you said, you can trust that what you're dealing with stays right there. You ain't got to worry about people running back and forth, saying this, saying that. I think that which is very powerful. And I was just reading the interview. I just saw a clip of an interview of one of the guys who played in The Five Bloods with him. And he was saying that, when he first met Chadwick, he told his wife he thought that maybe, the Black Panther, whatever had gotten to him. Not because Chadwick was mean or anything like that, but he saw that Chadwick had his wife, every time they cut a scene, he had a doctor who was like massaging him or whatever, not even knowing what he was going through. And I think that's also a huge takeaway. You do not know what the people around you have had to deal with, what they are having to push through. And so our disposition should always default to grace. It should always default to, assuming the best in people's, how they move and navigate the world. And, understanding that all of us bring to the table our own life experiences, our histories, our everything, our present pains, everything. And so that we should, just always endeavor to be kind and try to be there for people as much as possible with the appropriate boundaries.
Absolutely. So before we go, I want you to tell people about what's happening on the 19th.
Oh, yes, thank you. So Mastering Mind Matters is something I started as a quarterly mental health symposium, which is kind of in the process of being expanded right now. This month's mental health symposium, we will be talking with a young lady named Ashley J. She lives with borderline personality disorder, PTSD, and chronic suicidality. And our focus really on for suicide prevention for this particular year is one, suicide prevention for the Black community, but also with people who have been institutionalized for their mental illness. And Ashley has been institutionalized several times in psychiatric hospitals. And she talks very candidly about her experience in there and how they are more carceral than rehabilitative. And so we're also, in conjunction with that, we are doing a drive where we're raising money to fund a list of items to be donated to a mental hospital. A lot of people don't know you can't just like go up to a mental hospital and be like, here. You actually have to really talk to them. They have lots of stipulations about what you can give. For instance, I remember, shout out to Umade, who's the mastermind behind the brand Depressed While Black. She's the one who started this mental hospital wish list. She was saying, like, if something has alcohol as one of the top 3 ingredients, you can't donate that. And so that's something that we don't think about when we go out and about and buy our toiletries and things like that. But there's just a lot of different considerations. And so what she does is she talks to the hospitals with a list of things that are acceptable. Right? She purchases it. And she's a 501c3, so all of your donations are tax deductible,
100%. Could you say it's a website? Do you know the website name?
So if you want more information about the mental health wish list, it is depressedwhileblack.com. You can also go to masteringmindmatters.org for more information about all of the events and for more information about that particular endeavor that we're doing this month. Next month for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I'm trying to partner along with Danya with Rock for Life to do a drive to sponsor some what are called boat bags, which is something that Beverly Gooden, who is a domestic violence awareness advocate, came up with for battered women who are getting ready to leave. That's why it's called a boat bag. So we're trying to do some things. Domestic violence rates are up during COVID-19 because people have been in the house. And so we're really just trying to, do some things that can actually be practical in our helping people, not just giving them information, but arming them with the things that they need, so that they can be better and do better.
Okay, I just put that in the chat. So if people go back to the page, then they can at least see, visit either website. Thank you so much, Ashley. Is there anything else that you would say before we go?
No, I'm just once again grateful to you for this opportunity. It's been a good time, and I'm looking forward to more kind of impromptu chats like this where we can really just bring the real out about different things. So definitely looking forward to just continuing the work. Thank you.
That's cool. I want you all to know, like, this wasn't practice. It wasn't rehearsed. We know each other. I mean, for real, I didn't have a set of questions. I didn't, we just talk about what's on our mind. Like, this is really our conversations and we talk on the phone. But I think that, like, I will say that Ashley has definitely been one of my greatest supporters. I haven't been depressed for years, praise God. I don't get back to that point. But since COVID, anxiety has definitely risen some. But I still thank God for having people. I do know that there are people out there that I can reach out to, whether I do or don't. Sometimes I don't. I'm just like everybody else that we've mentioned. But I just want to leave you all with just making sure that you do have, like Ashley has said, community around you. Because when people know you, even if we're not supposed to be in that state, they will reach out to you when they care. And if nothing else that I've learned this year is I'm getting rid of people where I feel it's a one-sided relationship. And I don't mean just in romantic relationships. I mean, my friends, my family, everybody. I will no longer be the only person because life is too short and we just really don't know. And so it needs to be give and take because I want somebody to be there, if I'm having those moments or if they try to come back. And what we're dealing with right now in 2020, it's more uncharted territory than I think it's ever been. And so having people that you care about, your relationship with Christ, just doing for others like what you're doing, and giving back. There's always something we can do. And I know both of us share our knowledge and our wisdom. I'm not even doing half the stuff that Ashley's doing. I stay in my lane. This is my lane right here. Like I share what I know. I share my testimony. And I share my knowledge, things that I've learned since grad school and, dealing with counseling. But we are here, like she said. I want you to also say your pages, your social media pages again, please.
Sure. I am on Facebook, Ashley Burton. Good luck trying to figure out which one. Picture me and my fiance. I don't know. So if you can remember what I look like, sure, be for me on Facebook. The Mastering My Matters, that's the page. You can follow that page on Facebook. It's the same thing on Instagram, Mastering My Matters. If you want to follow my personal Instagram and Twitter pages, it's at A Person, B as in baby, U, R, T as in Tommy, O, N as in Nancy, 214. And those are my social media.
Awesome. And again, you can find me at 1SingingLady. That's the number 1 on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And on YouTube, it's 1SingingLady spelled out. Please, again, like, share, subscribe. If you were blessed by this, let us know. You can leave a comment, even if it's after. I don't know about you, Ashley, but I get encouraged sometimes when I'm discouraged and I read the positive notes that people have left. So if you were blessed by this, if you can relate to this, let us know. We are here to be a blessing. We both, I would say, selflessly give and share our testimony so other people can be healed. So thank you so much, sis.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's been great. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. And this is the end of our podcast.
Bye, guys.
Great day. Bye-bye.